Okay, hi everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give you guys a chance to hop on in. We have a lot to cover today, as per usual. I am coming to you live today from, as usual, Regina, Saskatchewan. So I'm right here based in Saskatchewan. And for those of you who are new to our following, I'm Kay Wilson. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I am the founder and lead consultant at Northern Connections Canada Immigration. All right, I see you guys rolling in. I'll give you a few minutes to come on in. We have a lot to cover today, as per usual. And let me know where you guys are joining me from. I'm in Saskatchewan, as I said. Saskatchewan is not as cold as it sounds. And we'll be talking about, coincidentally, we'll be talking about the Saskatchewan program today. I am doing very good. Thank you, Sankaro. Thanks for joining. How are you guys? Yeah, so today I'll be talking. I see some folks from Barbados, Trinidad, Antigua and Barbuda. Welcome. Aisha Fraser on Facebook, Trinidad. I see Jamaica as per usual. I see somebody says, I want to come to that amazing province. So Saskatchewan is definitely a jewel. It has grown on me over the years. I've been here for, I think next year, this year makes it 10 years in Saskatchewan. All right, guys. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. Before I get to Saskatchewan, so yes, we'll be talking about the Saskatchewan program specifically today. That's the SINP. Good evening, Kay. How are you doing? Good evening. Welcome. I can't see your name. It says Facebook user, so you'll have to give StreamYard permission so I can see who you are, but thanks for joining. I am doing well. I'm talking about the Saskatchewan program today because it's one of those programs that has been, getting a lot of interest from various people because it's actually one of the easier PNP programs to apply to successfully if you're able to get enough points. And I will be touching on that and what that looks like, and what that may look like for some of you. One specific program, or two of them rather, they don't require a job offer, and it's geared towards external candidates. So those who are outside of Canada, or even if you are inside Canada, but you're not, a permanent resident and you're trying to change your status. So we'll be talking about that. Before I go there, I want to make mention of a post that we did. So it was about the recruitment events that are happening in New Brunswick. So New Brunswick is one of those provinces that needs workers, right? They're always having these recruitment drives, and it's because of COVID. These things used to be in person. They've actually switched a lot of them lately to an online format, and so a lot of you who may not have been able to partake or participate in some of these programs before are able to do so. So you definitely want to make use of that. We are not in any way associated with the recruitment. We are simply providing you with the information because, of course, guys, we want you to be successful. We want you to get to Canada. And if we see, ways in which we can help you in that process, of course, we're going to present you with the information. So we're just sharing it for your benefit. Take the information, run with it, see how you can benefit from these things, right? We got you. We want to share this information so that, of course, you guys can be successful. So this in particular is a recruitment event that's being put on by the government of New Brunswick. So it doesn't get any better than this, guys. It's not being put on by a third party or a recruiter or an agency. It's by the government, and they are essentially helping employers in the province to get workers, right? So they're having these virtual recruitment initiatives, and they have them every so often. Um, and each time it might be a different, different types of workers that they're looking for, different occupations. And so what they do is try to connect you with the employers in the province. So they will be conducting the recruitment, the interview, whatever, live in the virtual setting. However, for you to participate, you first have to register. So there's a registration process. And then when you register, there are some documents that you may need at that time. So it's always good to be prepared, check out the ones that are there. And even if you don't see your occupation there, you never know when it might be your turn, or they might be looking for people with your skill set. So it's always advisable to look at what the requirements are, even for other occupations that they're recruiting for. And so you can be prepared when the time comes for you to have that opportunity. If it's supposed to be with New Brunswick, then you can have your documents in advance, because a lot of these, the registration period is very short. As you know, there's a lot of, some of you may know, there's a lot of interest in these usually. So you want to be prepared, right? And the time period between which you would register and actually attend the event or being invited to the event is going to be very short. So you want to have your documents handy and ready to go, right? Sometimes they may ask for language tests. They may ask for your credential assessments to be done. So you want to be able to have those things ready, only if you see there being a potential there for you, right? So I don't recommend just blanketly going to do a language test or getting credentials assessed without first knowing what your options are, right? I never recommend that. But like I said, for these recruitment events, they oftentimes may ask you for those things. So they have actually three that are open right now. So they're recruiting for people in the transportation sector. I'm losing my words here. So people in the transportation sector. So this may include truck drivers, anybody who work in transportation. They haven't really specified a specific job title or occupation, but it's very broad. So that means a lot of people may fall in that category. They want people in the poultry sector. So this might mean like meat cutters or butchers or stuff like that, and forestry, right? So they're just giving the general industry. And if you work in any of those, then you may have an opportunity to sign up there. All right. So I just wanted to mention that. Then, as some of you may know, there was an express entry draw back on October 13th. So they selected 681 PNP candidates in this draw. And of course, today we're going to touch on one of those PNP programs. So the cutoff score for this one was, 720, right? Because the PNP, the nomination gives you 600 points, right? So that means that the lowest candidate that was invited to apply from express entry only had 120 points. Can you imagine? And then the PNP nomination would have given them that extra 600 points. So that's pretty cool. And so that happened. And then the other one that I want to mention is, of course, British Columbia. So they are always having draws. They have draws very frequently. And this one was a tech draw. And this happened yesterday, so on October 19th, and they issued 85 invitations to apply. And this was across different categories. So they had skilled workers, international graduates, and then, of course, those who are in express entry. Okay, so those are the draws. All right, so I'm going to go on to the SINP. All right, so some of you may or may not hear about the SINP. Some of you may hear of Saskatchewan. Not so easy to pronounce. It's I think Saskatchewan derives its name from one of the native languages here. So we have a good representation of Indigenous people in Saskatchewan. And so you may find that some of the names of different places in the province is coming from that. All right, so Saskatchewan has a couple programs. So and again, it's called the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. And they have the International Skilled Worker Program. They have a program for those who are working in Saskatchewan, so workers in Saskatchewan. So this might be, so firstly, let me talk about it. So the International Skilled Worker Program is usually for those, of course, skilled workers who are overseas. So professionals who may not be in Canada or who may not have Saskatchewan experience. So you may be inside Canada, but you can still be an international skilled worker, right? So there is that. There is also the Saskatchewan Work Experience class. So workers in Saskatchewan, these are people who may currently be here working, whether on a work permit or students, of course. If you study in Saskatchewan, you would probably fall under that category once you have gotten your Saskatchewan work experience. Okay. And for students, that's typically about 6 months. So pretty short compared to other provinces. They also have an entrepreneur stream. So those who may want to start a business in Saskatchewan, with the entrepreneur programs, there's usually a capital investment that's required to whether, buy an existing business in Saskatchewan or to start a business, right? But there's a minimum capital requirement, and that will be based on where you want to start your business, whether you're going to do it in one of the cities here. So we have 2 cities in Saskatchewan, that's Regina and Saskatoon. So whether you're going to be opening your business in one of the cities or in a small town, that will determine the minimum required for funds in terms of your capital. And then they also have a farm owner and operator program. So for those who want to start a farm in Saskatchewan, or again, maybe take over a farm. So if you're a farmer and you want to invest in the province in farming, then that might be a program there. So I'm going to drill down a bit on the International Skilled Worker Program. So they have a few different categories under this program. So remember we said that we have all these different programs, over 80 in fact. You may have a specific province. So for example, with Saskatchewan, we have the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, but under that program, you might have multiple streams, right? So the International Skilled Worker itself is one stream or one category, and then that even under that, there are multiple streams under that one category. So we have the International Skilled Worker Employment Offer. So this is for those who are able to secure employment in Saskatchewan. We have the International Skilled Worker Express Entry Stream. Again, this is for those who have an existing express entry profile. And then we also have the International Skilled Worker Occupations in Demand, which is basically occupations that are in demand in Saskatchewan, right? So if you work in one of those occupations, you have work experience in that, and you meet the other eligibility requirements, then we're saying that you may be able to apply to that program. So that's a little breakdown of that program. These programs are typically a lot more easier to get into compared to other programs. Saskatchewan uses they call it an EOI system, so an expression of interest system. And how this works is you essentially will express your interest in coming to Saskatchewan. So you create an EOI profile. Of course, you have to meet the requirements in order to do that. You enter the Eoi Candidate Pool. So basically mirroring somewhat how the express entry system works. And once you create your EOI profile, you get into the Eoi Candidate Pool. And once you're in the pool, they often, every month, they will make a selection from the EOI pool. And we'll talk more about how they make that selection and what are the criteria. Then, once you're in the pool, you may be selected if you have met the criteria for the draws that they have. You would then receive an invitation to apply. With that invitation, you would be given a time period within which to apply to submit a complete application. Then, once you have submitted that complete application, they will, of course, assess your application. If you are successful, then you will be issued a certificate of nomination, right? So the certificate of nomination is what you will use to further apply for PR. So it doesn't end right there, right? You're just nominated by the province. You can, depending on the stream, you may be able to use that certificate of nomination with a work permit support letter to apply for a work permit. It depends on the stream. And so you can essentially start working while you're waiting for the PR process to be complete. Because once you have been nominated by the province, then the next step is to apply for permanent residence with the federal government. So there are a few steps involved in that process. But that's just a summary of how that process works. So the EOI system that Saskatchewan has is a system where candidates are ranked, right, based on their score. And of course, for Saskatchewan, the NOC code that you are working in, so the NOC code that your work experience is in, is very important. So some of the highlights of the occupations in demand specifically, and you know what, the occupations in demand and the express entry stream, they are the exact same thing. The exact same thing. The only difference being one requires an express entry profile and the other doesn't. So if you perhaps didn't meet the language requirement to go into the express entry system, and you want to apply under one of the Saskatchewan programs, then the occupations in demand might be the better one for you in that case, because the language requirement is much lower, right? Where express entry, you need a CLB 7. So CLB 7 for IELTS is getting a 6 in each of the skills that are tested, right? Whereas with the SINP, you need a CLB 4. So it's way, way lower in terms of the language requirement, right? You need to score a minimum of 60 points out of 110. That has since gone up from, I think it was out of 100, now it's gone to 110 because they have added the points for the second official language, which is French. So if you have any sort of proficiency in French, then that can actually help with your application and your overall points. You also need to have completed some sort of post-secondary education, right? In order to apply to this program, you want to have earned either a diploma, a certificate, or a degree, right? Again, that contributes to your points. And then, of course, you must have a minimum of 1 year full-time work experience. And so full-time, for the purposes of immigration, is equivalent to at least a minimum of 30 hours per week, or the equivalent of part-time, which would be full-time, which would be 15 hours over 2 years. So full-time being minimum 30 hours per week for 1 year, and part-time being 15 over 2 years, right? So, and that 1 year of work experience minimum must have been gained within the past 10 years. And another important factor where work experience is concerned is the NOC. And we've talked about this in previous videos where the NOC code is concerned and how you determine your NOC and all of that. But the NOC has to be OA or B. So if your NOC falls in category C or D, then you would not be eligible for this program. Another thing to consider with work experience is the licensing, right? So you must ensure that if you work in a regulated profession, that you have submitted an application for an assessment to the body in Saskatchewan that assesses that occupation. So, for example, you may find engineers, right? In order to practice as an engineer or to work as an engineer in Saskatchewan, like a full professional engineer, then you would need a license, right? So you'll have to apply to the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan for an assessment. And so when you are applying to this program, if you work maybe overseas, you work in this occupation, so you work as an engineer, whether civil or mechanical or electrical or different types of engineers, like chemical engineers, then you would need to have that that assessment done in order for them to in order to apply under this program and in order to be successful, right? So some other occupations that might be regulated as well might be like trade, some trade occupations. Those may require a license. And remember, you don't have to have the full license. They're not asking for you to have the full license. What they're asking for is to demonstrate. So you'll have to provide proof that you have consulted with this professional body that regulates the profession, and you have documents to show that. So these bodies usually have a process. So they would probably ask for employment information so they can verify your work experience, that you have worked sufficient hours in order to be admitted to this body in Canada. And they might also verify your education, right? So there is and for most of them, it's very straightforward. I've actually had to help clients with applying for licensure for some of these organization, and it's super straightforward for most of them, right? You just need to have all your documents, and they will issue you a letter, essentially. So it's not the license, not the full license, but they'll usually issue you a letter to say that you are eligible to either write the entrance exam, or you are able to get like your engineer in training. You are able to be approved rather as an engineer in training, stuff like that. So that's specific for engineers, of course. And other occupations that might be regulated, maybe like architects, or you have early childhood educators. That's definitely one that will require some sort of licensing. Occupational therapists, you have chiropractors. You will know, depending on where you're working. Paramedics, right? Depending on where you're working right now, of course, in your home country, you most likely would have required a license. So if chances are, if you did need one back home, then you most likely will need one in Canada, right? So you'll have to check based on where your work experience lies. So that's for licensing, and for the majority of people, it may not be required, right? And so once you have determined that, then you also want to ensure, and I probably would do this even before checking about licensure, you want to ensure that your occupation is not excluded. So there are hundreds of jobs and occupations on the list of occupations in demand for Saskatchewan, right? And what the Saskatchewan government has done is to include a list of occupations that are excluded from the express entry and the occupations in demand categories. So essentially, if your occupation is excluded, so if you find that you're on this list, you're not code, your not code is on this list, then you would not be able to apply to Saskatchewan. Not for these two programs. You might be able to apply under the job offer stream, but not under the occupations in demand or the express entry stream. Okay, so there is a long list. I won't be going through all of it, but definitely check. Go on the SINP's website, or even do a quick Google search it will bring up the list, and it's called the SINP Excluded Occupations List, right? And then you'll be able to see whether you may have a chance with Saskatchewan or not, if your job is excluded or not. Typically, they would exclude like managers in government, because these positions are usually protected for permanent residents who are in Canada and Canadian citizens. So some of those, but some. So one that was more recently excluded. So you'll find too, if they get a lot of applications for a particular occupation, and they may not need any more, depending on what they're seeing in the labor market, they may add it to the list, right? And remember, this list it's not static. It will change. It's usually updated. So the last update here that they had was October 1st, 2019. They will update this, right? So for example, so 1111, that's a NOC code for financial auditors and accountants. That one was more recent. When they started excluding some occupation, this was never on the list. So you'll find that maybe they had enough for what the labor market, what they believe that the labor market needs for this time. Remember, I said it's definitely something that's subject to change, so they will always be updating the list. So definitely, keep a check on that. Some others that may be noted, like they have dentists, they have vets, so veterinarians, optometrists, pharmacists. So these are some of the occupations that are excluded on this list. They have opticians. So a lot of the specialized medical practitioners are excluded for now. They actually do have a separate program for some health workers. So maybe that's why it's excluded on this one. They actually do have a separate program under the SINP. Teachers, let's see. I believe teachers are excluded. Yeah. So they have excluded post-secondary teaching and research assistants, secondary school teachers, elementary school teachers, kindergartens. Those are all excluded. And these were never on the list for Saskatchewan, because you'll find to teach in Saskatchewan. And I actually have an interview. So I did an interview about a week ago. We'll release it soon, so just be on the lookout for that. I have a teacher who migrated to Saskatchewan a number of years ago. She came from Jamaica, and she was sharing her experience of, coming to Canada, migrating as a teacher. She was a trained teacher in Jamaica for many years, over 20 years of experience as a teacher. And she was sharing what that process was like for her coming to Canada and teaching in the classroom, how it was different, and what were her findings, what was her experience. And also, I felt like very important thing that she touched on was the licensing. How did she transition from teaching in Jamaica to teaching in Canada, and what were the things that she needed to do? So you guys can stay tuned. I will be posting that interview soon. It's already recorded. So stay tuned for that. So those of you who are teachers, you would definitely not want to miss that, and it will help you with even prepping as you look to come to Canada. You'll see what are some of the things that you can do even now from back home before you come, to make the transition a lot smoother. So some other things that are excluded, of course, they don't want any judges, lawyers, firefighters. Again, this is just one program, right? So it might be different for different programs. And then also something to know, when I talked about the 1111, that's for financial auditors and accountants, but there is a related NOC, which is 0111, I believe. That's for financial managers. So some people Again, remember the knock is based on your work experience. So if you can show that your duties may not fall under 1111, but it might be 0111, you may be able to get through under that one, right? So it's all about what you can demonstrate and choosing the knock code wisely. And so that is definitely going to be very important for this program. Those who are seasoned in their occupation, you get a lot of points for work experience. So we're going to look at points, and then I'm going to wrap up. So education and training, you have up to 23 points. So remember I said you need to get a minimum of 60 points for Saskatchewan, right? In order to enter the EOI pool. So for education, the maximum points available is 23. For work experience, you can get up to 15 points for work experience. For first official language, whether that is French or English, 20 points. And second official language, so if you're proficient in both English and French, so you can choose which one is your first and which one is your second. That's 10 points. So guys, it doesn't hurt to learn French, okay? It will benefit you not just in the immigration process, but also in Canada, right? There are a lot of jobs here that require bilingual candidates, especially if you want to work with the federal government. They usually are looking for bilingual candidates, and the federal government, their benefits are usually pretty good. And for age, the maximum points that you get is 12 points, and that's for those between 22 to 34. And then it drops to 10 if you are between 35 to 45, okay? You also can get additional points if you have a close relative in Saskatchewan. So if you have a family member, that can be a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, a first cousin, or step, and these people can be step family members, right? So a stepmom, step whatever, or in-laws, right? So these same relationship. Remember, anyone that I was even going to touch on this. So that's an additional 20 points, right? Pretty significant. If you have a relative in Saskatchewan or an in-law, well, yeah, an in-law or a step family member of that same relation, right? It's parent, sibling, grandparent, aunt, uncle. So aunt, in-law, mother-in-law, that kind of thing. There's that additional 20 points. And remember, guys, I've seen people email me sometimes, and they're like, I was selected for Saskatchewan. Now I need to submit my application. I indicated that I had a family member there, so I got the additional 20 points. Now, how do I prove that? If you don't have a family member in Saskatchewan, please don't say that you do, because anything that you put on your application, you will have to prove it. So if you don't have a relative in Saskatchewan, then don't say that you do. Right? And it has to be somebody that you are related to, not a friend. Okay? You can't say, find me a relative in Saskatchewan. It doesn't work that way. All right? So I've gotten too many of those inquiries, and I usually don't respond. So if you sent me something like that, I'm not going to respond. If you don't have a relative in Saskatchewan, you don't. It's just that's just it, right? So just find another option if your points are not high enough, right? There are 5 points available for having past work experience or studying in Saskatchewan in the past, right? So if you are even your spouse may have some sort of connection there. So there are an extra 30 points for having a job offer, but it does not apply to the occupations in demand stream. Okay. Okay. What was your, I can't see this message. For choosing Saskatchewan. So we came to Saskatchewan, like I said, about 10 years now, and When we initially chose Saskatchewan, it was because of the abundance of jobs and opportunities here. So what I personally have found, and I'm just contrasting this to living in Toronto, right? Big city, lots going on, great place to live. But when we came to Saskatchewan, well, when we decided to move to Saskatchewan, it was because the job market at the time was way better compared to being in Toronto. Toronto, it's like it's go go go, right? It's more slow paced here. It's more family oriented for me, especially, I have a young child, and I just prefer slower compared to having to be on the go all the time. But yeah, so it will depend on choosing Saskatchewan or not, or choosing another province will depend on the lifestyle that you want to live. Toronto, we found the job market though was our main reason why we decided to give Saskatchewan a try. It was, of course, listen, every single province that you'll go to in Canada, every single province that you can go to in Canada will be a different feel. You'll feel like you're in a different country. Okay. And I heard a comment like the other day saying that Saskatchewan is bush. One of these days, I'm going to do a video and I'm going to show you what Regina in particular looks like. It's beautiful. And some of you, if you're in our group or Facebook group, you would have seen some of those images and videos just showing the scenery and what Regina looks like. You can't even tell that you're in Saskatchewan. It's very beautiful, and you have balance, right. So Ningwai mentioned better work-life balance. Definitely, it takes, so like here in Regina, it takes you about 15 to 20 minutes to get to wherever it is you're going. So if you're going from south to north, it's not going to take you longer than 15-20 minutes. I was talking about the job scene, way more opportunities. So for example, especially if you're coming from overseas and you don't have that work experience, you'll find when you go to Ontario, Toronto specifically, when you go to Toronto specifically, you will realize that they will say, well, do you have any work experience? And you're like, yes, I have work experience. I've worked 10 years in this field. I have a master's, I have this, I have that. Okay, one tip, guys. When you come to Canada, they don't really care about your education. It's not that big a deal. It's more about your work experience. They value work experience. And what you'll find also when you're applying for jobs in Saskatchewan, well, not just Saskatchewan, in Canada, references are very important. References, have good references. Okay, and yeah, so your work experience will be very, very important, more important than qualifications. And you will find in Toronto, they'll say, well, you don't have any Canadian work experience. So that's going to be, I've seen for a lot of people, a hurdle to cross. And then remember, when you are in Toronto, you are competing with a lot more people, because I think Toronto only has over 2 million people, right? A lot of people, most people who migrate to Canada typically want to go to Toronto. So when you go there, there is a lot more competition. And guess what? People are qualified. So if you think you're coming with your master's and you're this and you're that, there's a million other people with the same qualifications, right? So what will separate you from everybody else? What will make you stand out? So that's what you'll have to figure out. And then you'll find too that Toronto employers, a lot of them works through employment agencies. These are not international recruitment agencies. These are just, I would say, in Canada agencies, right? They are recruiting for positions in Canada, people in Canada, whether permanent residents, Canadian citizen. And you'll find though that they tend to outsource a lot of the jobs to agencies. So you will be able to, you most likely will be able to get a job through an agency, but it might be like a 3-month placement with this company and then another 6 months here and there. So you'll never truly have, it won't be truly your own job. You won't get any benefits. And what they did too was they will pay you out your vacation on each paycheck. So you probably won't even get any vacation. So if you have to take time off, it most likely is not going to be a paid time off. Um, so you'll find that there. And so for you to truly get like a permanent job, it's going to be hard without having that Canadian work experience. So a good strategy might be to go to other places, go to Saskatchewan, go to New Brunswick, PEI, look at all these other places where they do want immigrants. They want you to come. There are opportunities there. You can get some really good positions that you maybe never in a million years will be able to get in Ontario or in Toronto. And just build on that Canadian work experience. And then if you want to go back to Ontario, Toronto, wherever, you can do that because you have that solid Canadian work experience and you can go and really dominate. You can command your salary. You can go and make an impact, right? So you have to be strategic about what you're doing. And so when we first came to Saskatchewan 10 years ago, that was one of the main reasons we were working in Ontario, right? We were working, but we saw better opportunities, and the pay was more, like benefits were much better. So we opted for that, and we don't regret it. We don't regret it. It's been longer than we had planned to stay, but that might be a testament of the fact that it's okay. It's okay here, right? It's good. So that's all I had to share with you guys today. Thanks so much for joining. And as per usual, if you're looking for help with your immigration application, whether that be Saskatchewan or somewhere else, we are able to represent clients from all provinces, right, across Canada. So if you're interested in any province across Canada or even in express entry, reach out to us, send us an email at info@nccanadaimmigration.com, and we'll be happy to assist you. Or go on our website. For those of you on Instagram, you can go on the link in our bio, and there are options there. Click on book a consultation if you need one-on-one support. We're happy to help you. So schedule your consultation and we will be able to better assist you with finding options, figuring out your next move, what will be the best pathway for you to take to Canada, and how you can get here. Okay, WhatsApp number. So our number here, the office number is 306-351-5595. But like I said, it might be best to send an email or to better assist. You can still call, but we might direct you to do the same thing, to schedule a consultation for, you either have a consultation with myself or one of my other consultants that I have here. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Ning, I didn't see that. Well, you guys can deal with it. Interesting, right? I don't even see who you're talking though. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your week. And don't forget, we're having our webinar series rather, next week. So all of next week, each evening, we'll have a different session. Ensure that you register. You can't attend unless you register. And also, if you miss it, once you register, you will get a link emailed to you with the replays of the sessions. The replays will be available for a limited time after the session. So do join us. I will most likely join you guys again over the weekend, maybe on Saturday, to talk more about the webinars and that we're having. And I'll provide you guys with some more information on that. All right. So take care as always, and we'll catch up over the weekend.